Hello everyone, it's me, Carl from Seafoam Gaming, back again with another Unscripted Memories. I mentioned a while ago, I believe, that I wasn't going to do many of these as I shifted towards my new season of Eternal Memories. And at the moment, I am still working on the script for the premiere, but it's almost done. I just need some assets commissioned, which I'm planning to do soon when I get not shy. And I decided, since I mentioned a while ago, I was going to do a movie review of a movie I was going to see, mainly because I reviewed 6 other movies in this series before. The audio sounded like I was underwater because of a error with my mic. So this one will be way better, and I may even just redo that one at later on because I have an idea for this franchise in terms of retrospectives. But today I'm going to talk about Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna. So last time I looked at the Digimon Adventure Tri series of movies, which had the 6 main movies that came out from 2015 to 2018, I think, or 2016, no, it was 2015, 2018. It felt like forever, but really, it was kind of hard to explain. I mentioned it in my If You Can Bear the Underwater and Crackling Noises. I mentioned it in my video on Tri I made a while back that I'll put as a card. But in general, Digimon Adventure Tri I liked a lot. I saw my friend Paul in the theaters for the ones that were in the movie theaters, and on Blu-ray for the 2 that were Blu-ray only, which were part 2 and 3. And I figured, oh, these are going to be good, and these are going to lead to lots of cool moments and payoffs. And I did like some moments a lot, especially as a Digimon fan that didn't care for the dub of O2 much. It was really, really good seeing my favorite characters back again with a lot of the same voice actors, though some of them got replaced due to unions and being aged out or not in the industry anymore, so that made some sense. But overall, it was just pretty entertaining, and Digimon Adventure Tri was really good, and I really loved the bonus features that had interviews and stuff. Those on the Blu-rays made it really, really special to me. But in the end, I think I mentioned this, though I may have been just coming back from the movie at the time, so I probably didn't really get time to settle on it. But I kind of figured that it felt like it was not necessarily rushed because it was a long time to come out, but it was like half baked, and all the ideas they had, they didn't really know how to end them, so some of them just feel like haphazard, like in the Hurricane Touchdown movie, which was a pretty poor movie. So to have 6 movies that felt like that in terms of payoff, they make Digimon fans happy. In fact, I knew quite a few people who actually hated the Tri series, despite originally saying that Part 1 was like the sign of one of the best new animes of the 2010s. Because I dead ass saw people when Part 1 came to Crunchyroll say that Tri is going to be one of the best anime movies of 2010s, and now they don't like it at all. So that shows how if you make a multi-part movie, you can mess up really badly. So for me, after I saw Digimon Adventure Tri Future, I was wondering what was next. But to be fair, I didn't have much time to wonder what was next because they announced in the mail that some I believe that a new Digimon Adventure movie for 20th anniversary would come out sometime in the future. And it was going to star people who were in college, the digitally destined in college, and that not much else was revealed. But it confirmed that this wild ride would not end, and there was another Digimon movie after the Tri movies. And that's what I have here today. Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna, which came out at the beginning of, I think, late February of this year. And it was dubbed just a few weeks ago in early October, late September. So I got the Blu-ray and DVD with a poster. I showed it a bit in my Game Gear Micro video. And yeah, I said I was dodging spoilers for months. I finally watched it, and today I'm going to tell you all about my thoughts on it and in general who I mean to the franchise. But that means I'm going to spoil the crap out of it, so leave now if you don't want to be spoiled, and please watch it yourself. But in general, after Try happened, I was kind of expecting, some plot threads they did leave as cliffhangers and that to be resolved somehow in the show. Well, this movie. And so that was the main reason I was hyped for the movie, because I was like, oh, it's going to be the ultimate finale to bridge the gap till the O2 distant, where are they now epilogue. And, I felt it was going to be a very good movie. Lots of problems fixed from Try. In fact, there was one movie instead of 6 meant it would be focused and concise. And I'm going to say, for most part, I was right about some of that, but wrong about some of that. There's some disappointing aspects, but some I really liked, and some I thought Try did better. So let's just go into, I guess, ramble on about the movie. And as you notice, I'm in the hood because it's freezing outside and somehow it's snowing in late October. So Digimon Kizuna takes place 5 years after the events of Digimon Tri, which took place in 2005, so that means Kizuna takes place in 2010. Matt and Ty are now in their early 20s along with the other Digidestined, and they are graduating college, except for the others who are still in it or doing their own careers or have their own focus for the future. Basically, it starts off with a tribute, I guess, to the Parrotmon battle from the first Digimon OVA, which I guess was kind of cool. But it does seem like it's kind of sudden because you see all the Digidestined with their new Digivices. They have phones now, they're Digivices, and you don't really know what happened to D3s or the old devices or whatnot, and it doesn't really get explained. They just replace the D3s and original Digivices with the phone Digivices, and they look kind of cool. It looks pretty nifty, and since it's 2010, it does make sense they'd be using smartphones with technology advancing, and Izzy could make something like that easily. But it does come off as, wow, it's been a lot of time since Digimon Tri, even though in the real world, Digimon Tri didn't come out that long ago. So it's a bit of a jarring time skip, but overall, it's still something that you can get back into, especially if you only jumped from Digimon Adventure 02 and skip Tri, like some people say you should. I don't think you should, but if you don't want to watch Tri, you can skip it because I'll mention a bit later on why. But yeah, you can jump in pretty easily this movie, and it starts off in a good tribute note, which is pretty nice. And then the movie just goes into a bit of a segment about all the kids being older now, except Solo, who's just MIA. And they just mention how they're just having some fun, hanging out together, planning out their future careers and whatnot, and just looking for the future as they get older and they sell the Digimon partners. And in general, it just seems like life is going mostly good, except Matt and Ty don't really have any idea on what to do. They can't really decide for sure because Matt's not in a band anymore, and Ty just never really planned out what he wants to do. So those two have their own dilemmas while everyone else is settled, and some of them are even in their careers, like Mimi's now a stocking shelf manager that's a famous fashion designer, and Davis is almost going to do ramen noodles like he planned to at the end of '02. So they got some stuff planted that connects it to the epilogue already from the beginning, and I think it does it pretty well. And yes, the '02 kids, the four of them, are in this movie, and they aren't just silhouettes that don't have details like in Try. So in future, they just didn't even have faces. They were just mentioned and implied to be in danger. But you never saw them, so despite the whole six-movie build-up, they never really did anything with them except make their partner Digimon be beat-up toys. But now they're in the flesh with their Digimon as if nothing happened, and for one thing, I kind of wish they really mentioned what happened and tried just to say, oh, wow, we survived that. But, overall, they just did. They come back in a much better way than Try because they actually exist and do a lot in this movie. They aren't main characters, they are side characters because they are in America for this movie while everyone else is in Japan. But the old two kids are pretty nice to see again, even though all of them but Ken has been recasted because of COVID and because some of the actors don't live anymore. They died, like Armadillomons did at least, and some of them couldn't come back, and some of them were tired, so it was just kind of a mess. But the tri-actors are mostly back, except for one that had to not make it due to COVID again. That kind of messed up this movie a lot. But overall, the two kids are just enjoying their time abroad, and the Japanese kids are just enjoying themselves in, well, the futures. But then it gets a bit weird when Digidestined, because as it known in the end of '02, a bunch of random people became Digidestined out of nowhere, and it leads to the epilogue where everyone has a Digimon. So thus, there's a lot of Digidestined besides those two groups, and they start passing out and just losing consciousness for no reason. And it gets kind of suspicious, so Izzy and the rest come and look into it, and they find out this Digimon in the internet called Josmon, I think. Let me. Oh, it doesn't say on the back. I just remembered it's Eosmon, not Josmon. I think that's part of the Hackmon line. I'm still thinking Try. Oh my god. So, anyways, Eosmon is this weird Digimon that's in the internet causing trouble and causing these kids to get, infected and pass out. So in general, the Tai, TK, Matt, and some others go onto the internet to try and stop this thing. And like the war game, whatnot, it continues as normal. You expect them to go on the internet, beat up this bad guy, and win, or at least find out what's weak. It's weak to. And it kind of happens, except Omnimon gets its ass kicked because it splits into two, and the Digimon Eosmon escapes into the internet, and it seems all weird. And then they get out of the computer and find out from these two internet agents that came to the place, from America, I believe, that the Digivice Tai and Matt have on a time limit because I guess they've been using Digimon too long and getting old and, planning to move on, while the other kids, they're gonna move on, but they still have stuff to do in their lives first, like college and whatnot. So because Matt and Tai are on the verge of adulthood, their Digimon will eventually expire once their device expires, and thus it means, well, the end of the world. So this comes out of nowhere, and I'm gonna interstep my summary to mention that apparently some people got really mad at this because the whole plot of the movie is just, time before friends expire and die and whatnot. But apparently one of the directors of the movie, or at least one of the people who worked on the original adventure, worked on the movie and did not like that the Digimon had time limits because apparently that's not what they were meant to have. And it was added in, I guess, for sympathy and whatnot. So it seems kind of weird, and some people outright don't like the movie because it's artificially, I guess, playing sympathy, especially when you know what O2's ending's like. So it does leave a lot of concern that this could be worse than Try and cause plot holes or just inconveniences or just problem or just a bunch of random convenient stuff that's predictable. And me and my friend Paul were watching this and did kind of find it off-putting, but we were still wondering what the movie would have to offer. So we kept watching. We now know that Eosmon is dead set on making all these kids comatose, and then they start affecting the normal Digi-Destin, which leads to a lot of tensions because people like Joe and Mimi start having problems, and then they have to save their old friends, and then Matt is investigating this American agent who he thinks may be causing all this because he is around the scenes where kids are passing out, and it does lead to a good point because Daigo and that lady from Try were both doing some. Maybe it wasn't Daigo. I don't remember the names. All I know is that the two agents from Try that kind of were the same role were not in good faith. So Matt obviously knows, hey, these guys probably aren't in good faith either, so he investigates. And I say good for him because it's nice when the movie acknowledges the faults of its predecessors. So he goes to investigate, and meanwhile Tai and Izzy find out that Kari and TK got kidnapped as well and are being held in some weird building, and they race against time to get there, only for them to be comatose too. And it turns out that the agent that they thought was the bad guy was actually the good guy trying to stop the other agent he was working with, who was apparently behind the plot from the beginning. And she's with Izzy when they find this out, so she basically stops Izzy and makes him comatose, and basically steals his contact list of all the Digi-Destin in the whole world, basically meaning that Eosmon, which she created, can now basically go after everyone and stop everyone. So it seems kind of scary, because now this Digimon has everyone's contact info and they basically got doxxed, so now it's a race against time to basically stop this Digimon from ruining the world, as is commonplace with these movies. But Matt and Tai have to worry about, the Digimon expiring or running out of time, so they hope someone else can help them, except everyone else has been taken by Eosmon, so that's kind of scary. And the old two kids are unaffected, or they've had some close calls because they went with burner phones and cut themselves off and know what to do. And so they are the ones that are basically fighting Eosmon against the real world in America because no one else can. So that's what they do in the movie. They basically are the defenders while Matt and Tai go into the internet for a final time to fight Eosmon. And it turns out this girl that they've been, finding out was a bad guy, besides Queen Eosmon, lost her own Digimon when she was a teenager because she was so smart that she basically graduated and just accelerated adulthood so quickly that she basically just became a full-blown adult, and then her Digimon, passed away in front of her eyes, which traumatized her and basically made it so that instead of going to adulthood more, she was so traumatized that she decided to just not go into adulthood and work vigorously to stop anyone from feeling the pain she suffered, which sounds corny as hell and stupid in all honesty, But the movie does eventually do some good points to make it, kind of make sense and actually relatable. I'll get into that a bit later. Basically, Matt and Tai fight in this crystal world of Agumon and Gabumon. They fail to defeat Eosmon several times, and then out of nowhere, they find all the old Digidestined, including Mako from Tri, who just doesn't show up besides this point, all in a state of limbo where they are still with their Digimon partners as kids, and they are forever happy and whatnot, and thus they make them possessed to attack Matt and Tai, which gets really emotional when Matt has to fight TK and Tai has problems with Kari because they are siblings, and it just gets kind of nerve wracking overall, and it actually does become well written, and the music in this point of the movie is really damn strong, really creepy, really menacing. The background music is just amazing. We orchestrate some music from Digimon Adventure, the Japanese version, and ZO2, along with I don't really remember any Tri music being played, but it does do a good job at the musical tributes too. Basically, they're fighting, and then the game will the it's not like a game, they're on the internet, but like the battle in the internet gets really intense. Like you don't expect it. Like Try got bloody a few times, mostly in future, and but no, in this movie, Omnimon gets decapitated at one point, and then Matt gets hurt a lot, and then Ty gets hurt badly to the point he's bleeding massively, and it's like a really intense fight. Like, dear God, the Digimon Adventure Saga has a problem with crappy final battles, like Apocalypse was bad, Malmyosmon was bad, and then Egostrill didn't even happen. Like, all these final battles were crappy and just didn't really resolve climactically. But no, this does. This is focused. It's like Dio Boromon in terms of how good it is, but honestly a bit better than a Dio Boromon fight. And they just do a really good job of all these action scenes, all these fighting scenes, and just tense stuff in general. It's really darn good. And Matt and Ty just fight to the end, and eventually they find out that the only way to stop Eosmon is just to go all out, so they use the final bits of the Digivice to digivolve Agumon and Gabumon beyond Omnimon into these unnamed humanoid forms that look really weird but also cool. And so they team up together to destroy Eosmon once and for all and free the girl from her crazed state. And they do this, and it frees all the other Digidestined and saves the day. And, I summarized that pretty quickly, but it is a long, long fight with lots and lots of depth to it. So, I'm spoiling it. I still want you to see the movie, so I'm not going to say every detail. But they do save the day, and we find out that the girl who was crazed and thought her Digimon went without warning remembers that her Digimon said thank you and whatnot, left on good terms. Not that it makes it better of a loss, but apparently, I guess they want to redeem her, she's crazy, so whatever. But they do this, the day is saved, and all the kids are freed, and we basically get to the end of the movie. Well, while this was all happening, Eosmon were popping out in the real world to, make Digimon comatose, but some Digidestined got warning ahead of time from Izzy, so they now start to fight, and therefore Digidestined are holding their own, and the all two kids are holding their own, helping other Digidestined. So it's not all hopeless on the real world front, and thus when Eosmon's destroyed at its core, all of them destroyed, and they are saved. And then it gets to some parts of the movie where they mention that, the time to say goodbye and whatnot. It's like Mystery Dungeon in a way. And so Agumon and Gabumon have one last moment with Mantai as they finally decide their careers, and then they just do some tribute moments, like Matt does a harmonica and Tai talks about his plans for the future. And then they just vanish out of nowhere with no, sad vanishing scene. They just poof. And it kind of seems sudden, and then the Digivices, the original ones that they found in the drawers, become hard, and they don't work anymore. Which makes me wonder, their phones turned hard too, because, their phones are Digivices, so does that mean they have to get new phones now? I don't know. But, yeah, it was kind of abrupt, and some people got really, really, really mad at this because it made no sense and honestly feels out of nowhere. And then some people thought it was really good and smart. And then the credits roll, and then there's no post scene. It just ends like that, with them being sad, but the other Digidestins are shown in the ending, except for one who I'll mention in a bit. Just, going about with the Digimon partners as they continue their lives, but they all realize they will have to separate someday. But in general, it just shows that they all, still move on with their lives, and Matt and Tai do their future goals. Matt goes to the space station, and Tai writes a thesis, which is about Digimon, and that does resolve and connect to the epilogue fine. So they did do a good job connecting to the epilogue, which is a bit of a mess, and people thought it made no sense. So they did try to make it, natural, and I commend them for doing that. But that was the movie. And in general, it makes people mixed. For me, I really liked it though. There's several reasons as to why. For one, the action is focused and really well done. There wasn't that many good action scenes in Try, in my opinion, outside of the first movie and the fourth movie. This one just has good action all around. It's really good, really interesting. Second, the old two kids do a lot in this movie. We hear about their futures too, and it does work well for the most part, and again, feels good and well done. Even though in interviews they said old two kids weren't going to be in the movie at all at first, which makes me kind of glad they put them in the end because they got really badly treated in Try. And in general, it just seems like a good movie, and the music's good, battle's good, everything's good. It's just some parts that make sense, and I'll mention the big elephant a bit later. But yeah, this movie is really interesting, and I watched it on Blu-ray, came with the DVD, like here. But like, in general, Last Evolution was really enjoyable. Me and my friends didn't really know what to take at the ending, but we still liked it. So then I had some days to reflect on the ending and the whole point of the movie, and I actually was going to do it the day after I finished watching the movie, this episode, but it took me 2 weeks, and there was a reason for that besides being busy with a job hunt. I ended up figuring out and just feeling that this movie does relate to loss, but losing Digimon has been tired and boring. The only series that really did that well was, Tamers, because eventually they lost their Digimon, but it met them a few months later, and then they reunited in '02, and then they apparently, they do separate in '02, but they know how to contact each other, but then try to reunite and stuff. And then in this movie, they get separated again. So it's like, oh wow, they get reunited, don't they? And yeah, the old two epilogue says they do all get back together with their kids and have Digimon, because everyone has Digimon. But that takes place about 18 years after this movie, so there's like a big, big, big gap. And if they are serious about, being gone, they may actually, for once, be separated for a long time instead of just a few years or a few months. But it mostly relates to the girl in the movie, the main antagonist, that makes me think the plot was really darn well good. So I mentioned in Eternal Memories I lost my best friend Chaz, who was an online friend of mine in early 2019. And the suddenness of his death broke me to no end, to the point that just, made me not really know what to do. And then I lost my grandpa last year, which I knew was coming, and it just hurt a lot as well. And it kind of showed me that both of my deaths paralleled what happened in Kizuna with the two people dealing with losses, Tai and the girl who's behind Eosmon. Eosmon's creator is just insane and wants her friend back at all costs, and just basically goes to killing people and basically comatosing them so they don't go what she goes through. And she's like so obsessed and angry and vengeful at losing her partner. That matches, as dumb as it sounds, with what I know some people go through when they lose their, kids. Like parents losing their kids. Well, in my case, my best friend out of nowhere just dying. I felt vengeful. I'm not gonna lie. I felt vengeful. I thought the parents were to blame. I didn't know what was going on. I was so mad that I thought all these kids in my college class I never really cared about, they should have gone instead of my friend. Why me? I was just so broken and spiteful and hateful that just kind of ate me from the inside. And I had to get freed, and I eventually learned to accept the loss and talk to family and moved on. But for some people, it's not that easy, and it eats at them forever. In the case of my grandpa, which I predicted was coming because he had a diagnosis, it's like, man, Ty, they know it's coming, they just don't want it to come, but they have to come and they have to move on. It just hurts so much. So it's really relatable. And it seems corny, it's done really well, which is better than any other Digimon separation arc, except for Tamers, which was sudden and was honestly kind of ambiguous, but that was really good. But Last Evolution does it good too, and I think it does make sense. I did hope that all the other Digidestined would, have to accept the eventual departures and stuff, but only one does, and that's Soa. Yeah, Soa's useless in the movie because she doesn't appear at all except helping her mom, and she cuddles Beelmon a few times, and then she just goes away for no reason, and then Soa just doesn't do anything. I thought she would, come to the internet and help Matt at the last moment. That's how they got the relationship started. But no, she just doesn't do anything. And it turns out, if you watch the movie closely, you find that she got Beelmon taken away from her before anyone else and knows the whole story, but is so heartbroken that she just spends time with her mom and doesn't tell anyone. So that's why she doesn't do anything. And that makes a lot more sense and is very clever. I kind of wish Soa did more in the movie. But, it really is a well-written movie. But now, despite all the good stuff I like about, time for the elephants in the room about connecting the Try and the future and what all the plot holes go to. So Digimon Try. Future ended with some big plot holes, mainly the Dark Ocean saga that seemed to have finally been reawakened. Now on another cliffhanger, the mysterious man that caused almost the whole scenario from Try to just vanish along with Alphamon. And some people like Izzy said they were going to do more to connect Digimon and humans, which implied the epilogue from O2. That hasn't really happened yet, kind of, except for the phone bit. So a bunch of plot threads from Try just don't get answered or happen at all. As I mentioned, the O2 kids don't mention it at all, and the only nod to Try we get is Mako in the, weird internet crystal world. So what happened, and what does this mean for Try? And, is this another stupid retcon like how Try did for O2 by not mentioning the O2 kids for so long? I say yes and no. Dark Ocean, yeah, I think they just don't know what to do with that. In O2, they didn't know what to do with that. There were lots of executive conflicts, and that's why O2's Dark Ocean never resolved. And yeah, O2, I think the Dark Ocean is just cursed to never be resolved because they don't know what to do with it, and that's kind of, problematic. So I don't think that would get resolved. But the Mysterious Man is the one everyone has been asking about because they said, oh, he's going to bring back the Oboromon or Daemon or all the obscure Digimon villains that don't really come back much except the Oboromon because he kind of came back before. But nothing happened in this movie. Eosmon was for the original. The girl behind him said she did get help on how to make Eosmon. We don't know who it's from. It may be the Mysterious Man, but they didn't really go into detail. But for the most part, yeah, the Mysterious Man's just MIA. So what happened to him? Honestly, I think they just wanted nothing to do with Try and just want to make this a more easily accessible movie. Then require everyone to just watch Try, all the movies, and then Last Evolution, which would probably not work well for a theatrical release. And in Japan, this had a beta release before COVID shut everything down. In the US, it was going to subtitled in March, but then they shut everything down, so that's why I never got to see it. And the Blu-ray was supposed to come out in July, got delayed, never got to see it. It came out finally, and this time I'm able to tell you today what happened in Last Evolution. But yeah, for I guess a theatrical movie, you kind of want them to know what's going on, so you expect them to at least watch the TV show that they have grown up with instead of movies that just came out. So it makes kind of sense why they made it distant. But in my opinion, I think they might connect the Dark Mysterious Man to the new Digimon Adventure reboot because that's an alternate universe and stuff. This guy seems like he can do that stuff. Because Genai, the normal one, appears in this movie and does not mention the bad one at all. So it's kind of, what happened. So maybe they could reserve, because, the Oboromon or Daemon didn't appear in the 2020 remake or reboot. They could just save that guy universe hopping for that. I mean, it's not like they haven't universe hopped before with Crosswords they did. So I don't think the mystery man is out yet. But that's just my opinion. And as for Izzy's stuff, easily explained, probably just happened after Last Evolution. But some people were really mad that all those plot points just never got addressed in Last Evolution. It felt like we were back at square one again. Like, nothing in Try felt like it mattered. And we don't even see the, Omegas for all the other Digi-Destined except for, again, not even Matt and Ty. They just go to Omnimon, which is better than the Omegas. But, yeah, it's kind of jarring. I can't help but feel that some people who say it's the Matt and Ty show were kind of right about this movie because it's just those two, except Izzy is pretty big, but the other kids just barely exist. The old two kids are pretty frequent, but the old one kids get ignored. Like Mimi doesn't appear much at all except being kidnapped. Solo, I mentioned how useless she was, even though it was a good plot device. And the others just, they don't. So it is kind of disappointing for people if you like, like Joe a lot, like Mimi a lot, like So a lot. You're not gonna like how this movie just sidelines them. But in the end, is Digimon Adventure Last Evolution still a fun movie? I think it is. It's really well made, good action, good plot, good characters for the ones out there, and it does feel like a good send off to Digimon Adventure. I just hope they don't backtrack in like 5 years and make another Digimon Adventure movie in this continuity, unless it's a prequel, I guess, but I don't know. It just seems kind of iffy to me, if I may be frank. But, well, that does it for Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna. Wait months to watch this unspoiled. It was worth it. I thought it was my second favorite Digimon movie so far. The best is Our War Game. That's uncontested. But it's better than all the Tribe movies because it's focused. It's not scatterbrained. And it's better than all the movies that are not Digimon Adventure because those weren't that good to begin with. Like, Runaway Locomon was the best of the non-adventure movies, and even that was non-canon, or at least really messy in canon. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, in terms of the Digimon Adventure movies and just Digimon in general, this is one of the best movies out there. I mean, again, it's not a high bar to set when the main Digimon Adventure sagas don't have good climaxes because it seems that for some reason outside the Boromon, all the final battles are anticlimactic and suck badly. But this one does not. It's made for the movie, but it feels concise, it feels climactic, it feels finality. It's just really good. So it does make me actually pretty darn happy with, the movie. And I do hope Digimon continues for years to come. Like, the reboot looks good. I'm gonna watch that when it gets dubbed or fully subbed. So, Digimon, I hope Tamers gets a comeback. But in general, Digimon Last Evolution was really good. My friend loved it a lot. I loved it a lot. So, that's what I think of Digimon Adventure Last Evolution. So there you have it. Have you seen this movie yet? If so, what do you think of it? I hope you listen to my spoiler warning. But if you don't care but want to see the movie anyway, are you gonna get it? Let me know in the comments below. It would be really interesting. But for now, I'm gonna go back to work on the Eternal Memories and just staying warm in this cold temperature. So bye!